Welcome back. Welcome back to our office hours. My name is Shamika, and I'm the founder and creator of the NOSA Group. And we are continuing our office hours, and we're going to change up the format just a little bit, but we wanted to give everybody an opportunity to get their questions asked. So that's why we're changing the format. So this time we'll be doing a format that will continue as time goes. You drop the question, so you can drop it on our Facebook page, our Instagram page, even our TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn pages, and we'll compile the questions, and I'll answer 3 questions at the beginning of our office hours, and then give you guys an opportunity to, of course, chime in, as well as get some good information and share some of your own experiences. So let's get started with our questions. So question number 1, and we'll keep the questions down to a 3 to 4 questions just for time's sake. So with the impact of technology, such as ShiftKey, in our industry, is healthcare staffing still a viable business? And shout out to this question that actually came in through Messenger today. And I think it's a great question because it's always something that people are asking, because the truth is the industry has changed. And one, that's not something that we have any control over. And it's definitely something that happens in every industry. So we're not unique in the fact that our industry has changed. With technology and all elements of our day-to-day lives, it was kind of anticipated, but I think many of us didn't think it would change in the way that it did. So this question was a 2-parter. So it was, hey, is it healthcare staffing still viable? Like, should you still enter the industry? Should you still start your business? Is it a good idea to continue if you're maybe struggling or having a hard time obtaining contracts? And you guys know my answer. Of course, any business has bumps and waves. Sometimes people refer to it as seasons. People may say, hey, it was a hard start to get going. Either way, your business is really based on what you started it for. So that's some of the things that I would really consider or think about when I'm in a place of uncertainty around either getting started or kind of rebuilding or revamping my industry, my particular business. And one of the best ways to do that is change your model. Change how you got started. Look at your business plan. Look at some of the things that you did. And some things, guys, honestly, that are obsolete, don't keep trying to do it. It's not going to work. It's not going to work because there has been such a heavy technology influx, but it's also not going to work because as nurses enter the market, they just have a different expectation. So you want to, as newer nurses enter, whether it's the per diem or agency market, to meet their needs. So doing paper timesheets, yeah, you can still do it, but it would be beneficial to you and more efficient for you to do it through some sort of app where they can select shifts, they can get their timesheet taken care of, and everything can be a little bit more seamless. So think about those things. Think about rebranding yourself, adding other services. I recently posted in the group about potentially offering staffing services to group homes, group homes or developmentally disabled homes where they may be living with families or maybe living in, independent facilities in various communities, but they still need staff. They still need staff. We offer, experienced staff who have understanding of a healthcare setting, which is really nice because then you kind of add that added value of, hey, I know you can have a non-clinical staff member provide, services or care services for your particular person in your group home, but it's always nice to have a clinical person operate in that capacity just because there may be some other issues happening with that individual. So having that knowledge base from someone on your staff is really great. So that's my first answer on that is relook at your business plan. See what works and what doesn't work. Really do your research because there is so much research out there from companies like American Staffing Association or SIA, Staffing Industry Analysts, about what they're seeing as far as trends and what's happening out there. So that's a great place to start. And then, of course, Google. But also, identify if you're an established business, what's working and what's not working, and think through what the why is. Collaborate with other NOSAs, as well as connect to your small business administration. I've seen all over my Facebook and social media a big push by the Small Business Administration to give small business owners the resources and support they need to actually grow their business. And one of the great things that they offer that I, as a business owner, have participated in and been a part of is their Small Business Expo, which is amazing, as well as their small business mentorship and assistance around creating a business plan, creating a profit and loss statement, how to create budgets, how to know what's happening in your particular market, how to look at different shifts in the industry or trends that are happening and how it might impact your business, how to create a marketing strategy that actually works. And then, of course, finally, how to make sure that it's effective. So how to evaluate those different things that you may be putting into place. So, and then, of course, finally, means and ways to get monetary support, funds, grants, things of that nature. So the second part of this question, and I didn't put it here, but it still is applicable, was around how does a technology company or marketplace like ShiftKey work? So over the past couple of years, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years, we've seen companies, and I'm not going to list them all. You guys know who they are, come into the marketplace, but they're a little bit different. So they operate, and I'm just specifically talking about ShiftKey, differently than a staffing agency. In many instances, these people are providing like marketplace technology. That's their goal, and they're providing the service to healthcare staffing facilities. So that's very different than what healthcare staffing agencies do. So they're actually not necessarily going out to recruit specific talent versus really offering to their clients, which is typically the facilities and healthcare systems, a pool of potential applicants or contractors. So I did a little bit of research today because I thought the question was so cool to share with you guys. And ShiftKey is offering a marketplace for facilities to go to look for potential candidates to work for them. Now, the capacity in which they work for them can be, and I think I got the answer, and you guys can definitely correct me, in a 1099 capacity. And of course, that leads to another question that we talked about, and I'll talk more about around staffing regulations. And I think ShiftKey was at one of the legislative sessions, but they're not actually pairing an employee with an employer, right? So that's not my understanding of what they do. They actually obtain people who meet the qualifications of that particular role. Those people then input their information into their system or marketplace. They put their credentials, they put maybe if they have background and maybe drug screen, I'm not sure to the extent, but they put your traditional compliance information in the system, license information, background, a resume, and things like that. And then a facility would go in and say, hey, I'm interested in, let's use me, for example, Shamika, to work a 3 to 11 shift at my facility. And then they select that person. I think somewhere in the process, there is also a piece for the facility to talk about them where they say, hey, we're a LTAC facility in Baltimore, Maryland. Our rate option is like $50. Like say it's like $50 an hour or something like that. And then that person is kind of paired up, right? So if I'm interested in working in Baltimore to LTAC, I'll select their facility. And if they're interested in me, they'll confirm or something like that. So I've never used ShiftKey. So if you guys have, definitely feel free to drop in the comments your experiences with ShiftKey from a contractor standpoint of view, because I believe those individuals are 1099s. But I think there are many companies that are very similar to that. And that's the type of technology, because part of her question was that the facility said that they wanted to work with her particular agency, but hadn't signed a contract and had currently been working with ShiftKey. So one of the things you want to think about with that is that it offers a lot of flexibility that maybe we're not seeing on our side as agency owners. I've dropped in the chat box about, hey, maybe agency owners could think about offering some sort of membership or some sort of exclusivity to provide services. that may entice, new potential or existing clients. So I hope that answers that question. And we're going to go ahead and get started with office hours. If you haven't got a chance, definitely feel free to jump in on our office hours today, as well as remember, you can always check out the replays of office hours with us on our YouTube channel listed here below. Thanks. Okay, so now let's move on to our second question of the day during our office hours today. Again, if you're available at 12 p.m. every other Wednesday, feel free to jump on. As always, you can definitely join us on YouTube, and definitely feel free to give your comments and experiences as well. So our next question is, how do you manage if you cannot access vendor management systems that okay. All right, welcome back to our next question, guys. Thanks so much for joining us here on Office Hours. We're glad to have you. Like I said, if you want your question answered, definitely feel free to jump in on here and get your question answered, as well as drop it in the comment section, and we'll compile the questions and answer them over a couple of different office hours. So we want to try and keep it to 3 to 4 questions so that people can give a chance to ask their various questions during the actual office hours. So some of the changes we made is we'll be answering questions on the early part of the office hours and then open it up to other people's questions who might be on the call. So definitely feel free, if you can't make it, to drop your question. So on to our next question. So our next question is, how do you manage if you cannot access vendor management systems that require 2 years of experience? Hey, Dosa community, we're back with another question. Again, welcome to Office Hours every other Wednesday. If you can't join us every other Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, feel free to check out the answers that I'm giving and give your own advice on some of the top questions from our group. We want to give you guys a chance to answer your questions, so we are changing the format a little bit, so you can always jump in on Office Hours, check it out on #replay on our YouTube channel, or submit your question via any of our social media platforms at THENOSAGRP, and we will answer it then. So let's move on to our next question. So how do you manage if you cannot access vendor management systems that require 2 years of experience? So before I answer the specific question, I want to give a little bit of background about vendor management systems and kind of how they've evolved over the past couple of years. Vendor management systems have been a part of all business industries for some time. They've been in the government, state, local industries, and then I want to say probably the last decade or so, we've seen them enter into the healthcare staffing market. And essentially, I've done a ton of videos on like how it works, and we'll answer a question here of like, what is a vendor management system, or what is a managed service provider, as well as a question that we've seen around how do I become a vendor management system or MSP. But as they've entered the market, one thing to understand about vendor management systems is that they change. So the clients under that VMS can change on a regular basis. And that's some of what we've seen happen over the past few years post-pandemic, is that some of the clients have either entered VMSs or exited VMSs. Some have been bought out by bigger companies. And the reason I wanted to share a little bit of that was because that's part of why we're seeing some of the requirements change. So on our YouTube channel, we have a couple of different videos that we did a couple of years ago, probably 2021, that talked about vendor management systems that are no longer as applicable. And one of those things is the requirements. So 4 or 5 years ago, or really 3 or 4 years ago, you could access a vendor management system without having years of experience in the industry, like directly. So you could be a NOSA that maybe was in the business for 6 or 8 months, maybe have a couple of direct clients, and then wanted to join this particular vendor management system. And for these purposes, I'm just going to call the vendor management system CS. And you would essentially reach out to their account manager. They would send you the contract. You would submit the requested documents, which at that time included your W-9 form, your insurance certificate of insurance information with the specific requirements outlined in the contract as far as coverage. Sometimes they may ask you to submit either a resume or application, and then any specialized credentials. And that may be if you're a woman-owned business or veteran-owned business or something like that. So at that point, you were, sign that information and then maybe attend a training class, and essentially you were given access. Now, with things changing and a lot of shifts in the industry, a lot of the CS VMSs aren't doing that. They're saying you have to meet all of the initial requirements that we've talked about over the past years and be in business for 2 years. So to answer this question in 2 parts, one, is that something that we'll probably see as a trend? Yes, because more VMSs are coming together. So they're no longer maybe 8 or 10, they're maybe 5 or 6. So with that, there's less competition. So they may, and they sometimes do, increase or change the requirements. The other piece of that, and I've always shared this with people that I've either worked with, whether it be through consulting or providing mentor support, is that when you join a VMS, whether it's CS or any of the other vendor management systems, you want to be prepared. So one of the preparation things that's important is once you get the access, you need to be able to actually do the work. And what that looks like is a lot of the systems have thousands of jobs. So if you're not in a place, whether it be structurally or organizationally, to, at least submit people on a regular basis to these jobs, it comes off from a client standpoint of view is that maybe you're not ready. So I've seen many people do all the requirements, get access to the system, and kind of get discouraged by the process. So the process for staffing via or through a VMS is very different than direct staffing. So that's part of why I say it's important to be prepared. So the process, the credentialing process, the steps, the process of getting paid really does look different. So you want to make sure that you've done your research and that your particular organization is in a place that they can actually not only go through the process to staff for those jobs, but also, understand what that looks like. And some things to think about is like, how long is your compliance process? Because you have to understand it's not just your agency that would have access to the VMS. The other thing is how long is your compliance process? Understanding that you are competing, understanding that because there's so many jobs, many times the bill rates are a little bit lower. And then finally, the payout is different. So you're not getting paid from a VMS typically in 30 days. It can be 45 to 60 days. So you want to account for that from a financial standpoint of view to make sure that you created, the appropriate buffer so that your employees get paid weekly or daily, however you have decided to pay your people. So those are a couple of the other things. And then also some of the VMSs have different requirements around how much you have to staff. So the example that I gave, there wasn't any specific requirements to say, hey, you need to staff 10 jobs or 8 jobs in a quarter or anything of that nature. But I will say that I think as time has gone on, and of course the need has gotten greater, a lot more VMSs are incorporating that requirement as a part of, your access to them. And some things to be mindful of and stay away from, because this was a part of her question, was you typically don't have to pay to access a vendor management system. They will take the portion of their fees off of whatever payment that they give to you. So that's something where you want to really make sure that you and an attorney, you and a business partner, or at least one second party, read through the contracts to really set the expectation. Like, hey, I'm going to get paid in this time frame. This is how the payment is going to come, which is another thing, which is typically via check. And then, how you document your hours. So there's a lot of nuances that you want to think about before you decide to jump in and be a part of a vendor management system. Do I think it's still a great option? Of course. Like I said, many of them have hundreds and thousands of jobs. So that kind of allows you to do, which would be my second suggestion, which is diversify your business portfolio. And in about 2 years, I feel like that's a reasonable time frame to join a VMS, because you should have not only a diversified portfolio, but you also should have a good applicant pool to pull from. So if you're in a region where they have hundreds of jobs, or the season is changing, they're hard to fill, jobs and locations, you'll have a better applicant pool to pull from, so that as these begin to come up, you're not kind of waiting because you have to go about recruiting for people. So you kind of have an established applicant pool to pull from to submit to these different job options. And then some other things when you think about your business portfolio, and this is a question we'll answer as we go on with the office hours, is to diversify in the way that your business operates. So you don't want to only have VMS types of jobs that you staff for. You don't want to only have direct clients. I think we've seen quite a few nurses share about their experience about how that kind of shifted their business during the pandemic. You want to have a nice mix, no different than you would have a nice mix if it was your personal portfolio. You don't put all your money in the savings. You may put some in the savings, some in your CD. You may have some on the stock market, maybe a couple of dollars in your 401k. That's kind of how you move forward, and that's kind of how you win when you're thinking about some of your ultimate goals when it comes to business. As always, thanks for the questions, guys. Like I said, we'll be doing more of this. If you get a chance to join us for office hours, feel free to do so. But if not, drop your question and we'll definitely post it up. And all the questions will get reposted onto our YouTube channel. And that way you can check out the answers and definitely comment. Please comment and give your take on your experiences. And I'll see you again at office hours.